If you're gonna feel in that moment when you're fearful, when you're thinking like, holy shit, the Black Plague is here, and it started in Wuhan, China. If you have a little bit of anger towards Chinese people or people that look Chinese or any Asian person, and you're just like, all these people ruining my life, I'm gonna lose my job, lose my thing, lose my business, I'm gonna lose my life, my family. Yeah, okay, I get it. I am an INFJ. Spot me with my INF gaze. They don't understand. Where are my fans? Hello. What's up? How you doing? I'm doing good today. I'm not sick. I sneezed a lot. That's why my nose kind of stuffy right now. Before I started recording, I started sneezing a little bit, but I'm okay. I'm feeling fresh. I got a haircut, got my haircut, starting to take care of myself a little bit more. Not trying to look like an Asian hobo. Trying to look more kept together, trying to look more put together, trying to put some effort, trying to look fresh for y'all. I didn't shave though. I'll shave tomorrow because I got a date with my girlfriend tomorrow, so I gotta shave. But I'm here now. Okay, I've arrived. I missed last week because I needed to take a little break because there's some personal things going on in my life right now, but it's not a big deal. It's nothing too out of ordinary, but it was something that I needed to just kind of step away from things for a little bit and just kind of let things lie. But I'm back and I'm here and I'm ready. I am geared up for discussion today, as I feel like discussion is more important than anything these days. Because even though I do have my own personal passions and personal passion projects and things that I want to pursue in this life, I still think it's important to just have plain old direct dialogue. And that's what I'm here for. I'm just trying to put my voice out there because I feel like I can be a voice that can contribute. And I think that the more of us, the more that we do put our voices out there, the more that we will have a world that is more understanding of each other. Because if we don't speak up and we don't say things that concern us, then we'll have miscommunication and we'll have misunderstandings and people will be upset over nothing, and then people start being passive aggressive, and then they start harboring all this hate and resentment, which I really think stems from lack of communication. I think if we all just talked more, even if you're just talking to a microphone and a camera, you're getting your information out there, and so more people can understand you. Otherwise, they won't, because they're not you. They don't know what your life is like, and that took a long time for me to realize that, people aren't mind readers. They don't know what I'm thinking. I might think that they're upsetting me on purpose, but it might be completely an honest mistake, and if we just communicated, then I would understand that, it's not that scary. You're trying to harmonize. I think it's more harmonizing, actually. Some people think it's harmonizing to avoid the confrontation, to avoid talking about what the issue is. Actually, it's less harmonious when you just decide to let it lie and just to not address the situation. When you do talk about it, and when you do have to confront somebody about something, a certain issue, confrontation has such a negative connotation. Confrontation just means you're really just going to the person or going to the people and just voicing your concern and just saying, this is what upsets me. This is what's making me unhappy. This is what's making me feel like I'm undervalued, or feeling like that I'm not heard or not listened to, right? And I'm just really, I was really inspired by this YouTube channel that I saw recently that came up I think it's called Bedroom Talks or Bedroom Chat or something like that. And yeah, I don't know why it's called Bedroom Talk. It just sounds kind of sexual, but I don't know if that's the intent of the channel. I think it's more about this videos that I've seen is about like kind of like the struggles of the Asian male and Asians in America. And I think it's, it just kind of sparked something in me, and I was just thinking like, I haven't really talked about this. Like I don't talk about it a lot cuz I feel like as an Asian person, right, in America, and like I've always struggled with identity issues because I haven't lived in America my whole life. Like I've lived in other places in my youth, and so but I spent the latter half, I guess, or not latter half. I would say I'm approaching half almost. Maybe the latter a third of my life has been in the United States, and so I'm starting to assume that identity of Asian American more so than ever, and I felt like it's and I've always felt like it's probably the closest identity that I can associate with, but it's still I still can't really associate it with it because like I didn't really necessarily spend all of my youth here. I never went through that like American school system, so. And this is just me being honest because I don't want people to think that I'm a poser or like I'm, trying to portray being somebody that I'm not. I'm just really straight up telling you what the situation is so you can understand a little better. But as of now, like, I mean, on paper, I am American. I have an American passport. I'm an American citizen. I have an American birth certificate. Like, this is all me, right? And I live here. I live in the United States. So all these situations and all these issues, I feel at this point now, I do have a say in what I believe in and what I really think is concerning me and what affects me, because it's what this country really is about is dialogue. I mean, it's about, freedom of speech is in the values of American life, right? And sometimes I feel like it's weird because I feel like I never felt like I should be a person that is like reminding others like, oh, this is freedom of speech is like, that's what, the Constitution says, like you have that right as a human being. And yet it feels like now I'm like on the other, like, it's like the tables have turned and I'm like the one trying to remind other people. And I feel like I don't even feel like I have the place to remind other people because like, it's like, who's this like guy who's like, this perpetual foreigner who's telling us like, oh, how we should live our lives as Americans. And honestly, I think that I should just speak as a human being to another human being. And I think that the more people understand that that's what it really should be, instead of being so attached to like a certain identity that, you're really just becoming a part of a group and you just assume what the group is thinking is correct. And you defend that, and you defend it to the end, essentially. Like, this is what I believe in because this is what everyone else in my group believes in. It's just, you're joining a group really, and you're just assuming the identity of the group to have an identity. But what I'm saying is like, as a person that has been so separate from groups my whole life, right? As so separate from nationalism or identities, that there is a very valuable, even briefly, a very valuable aspect of having independent thought and having to stand on your own 2 feet and having your own opinion about what's going on around you that affects you. And as a human, you should be able to speak, to say, oh, this thing is bothering me, this is concerning me, this hurts me, this irks me, this, all the things, like everything that affects you in a way that doesn't make you happy, right? And And so more than ever, I'm willing to just contribute in any way that I can, because I feel like this is important. I feel like if I don't, I'm just sitting on the sidelines and just letting things happen as they happen, and that doesn't feel right to me. And honestly, doing this doesn't necessarily per se make me feel like the best. Like, I just don't really like, I don't necessarily like having to address these issues and be the voice for these issues. I wish that there were more people out there to do that instead of me. And I think there is. And maybe I'm a little bit selfish in being like, oh yeah, this is like, this is like my thing that I have to do. But I'm just trying to help, really. And I rather do much more creative, artsy things. But I just feel like I could do those things, but I have to also cut to the chase, which is what this podcast is really about for me, is the cutting to the chase to help. Because I can help with my art. I can put my messages in my art, but it can be misinterpreted. It could be interpreted in many different ways, and my message isn't really communicated in a direct manner. So this is my thing that I have to do in a way. But I still enjoy it. I like now that I'm recording this right now, I feel really good recording it. Like, I feel good that I'm talking about these things. Okay, now all that aside, I want to address something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, which is just, I've been really dealing with like just being like having a feeling of annoyance for the past 2 years. And it came out a lot in my videos where, I have had, kind of just like a little bit of a, a behavior that I feel like is a bit confrontational, even just to the microphone and to the camera, right? And some of you may have seen this. And part of it was entertainment value. Like, I just didn't want to be boring. I just wanted to be able to say the things I wanted to say without making people feel bored. And still, that still applies to today. Like, I have to be somewhat animated when I talk to make sure that everybody is not falling asleep. But so this is something I've really been thinking about, which is like how just like generally, right, there's this, we all have like an understanding of like how we fit in the society, right? How we interact with other human beings in our world. And for me and my audience, most likely, is like, how do we interact with the American world? How do we interact with the American status quo or the American society? So we all have the assumptions, and we all have this subconscious understanding of where we all fit in and where we all kind of like fall in line. And I was in denial for a long time, because I would like to believe, and I would think that anyone would like to believe, that all people in America are equal. We are created equal. This is in the Declaration, right? Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's in the Declaration of Independence, right? Or the yeah, it should be We the People, right? So somebody fact check me on that. I must sound so stupid right now if that was a mistake, but I can't check right now. I'm in a zone. Okay. So yeah, I would like to think that everybody here is this is common knowledge. Everybody knows this, right? Like, everybody assumes that they're an equal person here. But after many years of being in America, right? Like, it's close to a decade, right? I've found that, now that I have returned home, because I've spent my earlier life in other countries, that this equality is not real. There's no equality in America. In fact, America is actually extremely hierarchical. Like, America is just, what is your status? What is your position? How much money do you make? right? It's all about status. It's what car do you drive, which neighborhood do you live in, what house do you live in, what who do you spend your time with on the weekends? It's all these things, and there's an extreme acknowledgement subconsciously underneath, like it's subliminal, right? Of like, where do you fall in line? And if you fall below, right? If you're below me in line, in America, you're treated as less. And if you're above, you're treated as better. And this is not talked about. This is not something that is out in the open. It's just assumed. And it's automatic. I would think that for anybody that lives in America, here's my outside perspective, that it's automatic. When you don't think about it even. You just know that if somebody is less wealthy than you, has a lower status than you, is in a smaller minority than you, you don't treat them better. You treat them actually worse than you would treat somebody who is a higher status, who is higher above you, who has a higher position than you. It's in the workplace. You go to your job, and if somebody's above you, you just treat them a little nicer. But someone's below you, treat them like shit. Someone who has no power over you at work, you treat them like absolute dog shit. You can say anything you want. You can say that, your wife's a whore. You can say like all these things. And of course, like, you don't want to be like super obvious about it, I don't think. But I've been in some like, minimum wage jobs where like, in the kitchen, you can say a lot, right? And you get away with it. And again, correct me if I'm wrong. Because if there's anything I'm saying that's false that you believe, just please comment it and correct me, because I am all up for correction. I'm not going to be offended. I really won't. I'm just talking to a microphone, and there's not much I can do when, I feel like I said something wrong. I can't really backtrack. I don't know what's going on per se. Or I don't know what I just said sometimes. So, yeah, please correct me if I'm wrong. So that's why we have racial issues in this country. And, there's some people that say like, yeah, race issues can never be fixed. Like, there's no way you can fix racial issues. It's just like, it's just the way people are. People just see race, and there's little to much, nothing you can do about it. There's some people that say that people genuinely think that there's always something that's going to segregate us, right? And that and as of now, like, I mean, look at where we are. It's 2022. And in 2020, we had one of the biggest, protests of racial inequality that we've ever seen in our lives. We would think that at this point, given all the history, that everyone would just be treated the same and just be treated nicely, right? And kindly as a human being, And we still don't have that. I mean, even after Black Lives Matter happened, like, we still don't have it, right? Like, we still have issues with race, regarding race. And granted, it is much better now. The likelihood of me being called a chink, right, out in public is probably close to zero these days, right? Especially in Portland, Oregon, where it's very politically correct. And if I were to be called a chink, then I'm pretty sure a lot of people will come to my defense, especially if I'm surrounded by people that are, aware, that have awareness at least. I don't know what's going to happen if I'm in a nightclub or a bar or something like that. Maybe it won't be the same story, but I would think that in anywhere in metropolitan or in the metro area of Portland, Oregon, I would assume, and I would not assume, but I would think, I feel confident that it's going to be very rare that somebody will come up to me and throw a racial slur at me. Stare at me all you want, Give me all the faces all you want, all the passive aggressive actions that you want, all the things that people can say and do. That all happens still. Okay? Because there's nothing you can really change about that. If someone doesn't like you and they just walk by you and shoulder check you, and it could be very subtle, right? Or even just like a quick look, a slight look, a way they move their eye at you, right? And someone might think, oh, you're reading too much into this. But all these things are subconscious, subtle, and these are clusters of data that we get as Asian people in America, where we feel it. Our sixth sense tells us that there's something that's off, that we're not being respected fully, that we're not looked at the right way fully, in the best way. This all started with the pandemic. I mean, no, actually, no, it didn't start with the pandemic. It's always been there, right? This perpetual disregard and disrespect for the Asian people in America has always existed. It's gotten better recently and it started with Trump being in office, kind of fanning the flames of division with Asian people. Okay. And this all became with the xenophobia. And this probably started with the recession in 2008, where people felt like China was taking jobs from America, and that America was like, like China was like stealing things from America, like stealing intellectual property, all these things. This is kind of common knowledge, right? And I'm just paraphrasing all these things. I don't have any references right now. It's just merely a discussion off the top of my head. It started with all that, and it started amplifying when Trump was in economic war with China. And then it became a whole thing with COVID. That really just was it wasn't the last straw that broke the camel's back. It was the last anvil that broke the camel's back. Okay. And the flood of like just people that have had those long-term resentment against people that are Asian, the floodgates were opened, and a lot of that anger came out, and understandably so. As fucked up and shitty that all was, right? I don't blame anybody. Okay, I don't blame the people for feeling that way. Is it acceptable to physically harm and attack other people? No. To have a little bit of anger towards Asian people, yes, it's understandable. Plain and simple. I'm not gonna deny that. If you're gonna feel in that moment, when you're fearful, when you're thinking like, holy shit, the Black Plague is here, and it started in Wuhan, China. If you have a little bit of anger towards Chinese people or people that look Chinese or any Asian person, and you're just like, all these people ruining my life, I'm gonna lose my job, lose my thing, I'm lose my business, I'm gonna lose my life, my family. Yeah, okay, I get it. Do I want that to happen? Do I think that's okay? No, I wish that never happened, okay? I wish that nobody nobody lost their jobs, nobody lost their businesses, nobody lost family members, nobody wanted it, okay? I didn't want this, okay? No Asian person wanted this. I mean, there's probably some sick, demented Asian people out there that wanted this, but most normal, okay, friendly citizens of the world and average person that you see on the street did not want any of this. Okay, and in fact, Asian people might be the most scared of all people of this virus, because you see I feel like most times Asian businesses, they have masks on still at work. But it happened, okay? And it just revealed a lot about how Asian people are viewed. That there's almost a feeling that Asian people are subhuman. And I felt this in my life growing up. that there is this subhuman feeling of being Asian, that you are just part of this cluster of like Asian faces. You know, you just got this slanty eye, your hair looks like a bowl, and you got a flat face or something like that, pancake face. And this is just a sea of what you see. And so there's like, oh, there's no way these people can ever, they're not a threat. They're actually funny looking. It's this. This is actually something that I saw in a Fung Bros video, where there's this kind of like this Terrence and Phillip-ization of Asian people, where in South Park, the Canadians look all the same. Like they all have beady eyes, like just black eyes, and then they have like their faces are kind of like an egg cracked open, and they talk like, it's like this. I don't know how you can look it up. But anybody who knows South Park knows that Canadians are portrayed that way, and Asians are seen that way. There's just like this just like there's sea, and they just all kind of look the same in I think a lot of Americans' eyes. I'm not talking just about white people here, actually. I'm talking about just Americans in general. Okay. And the idea of like making fun of an Asian person is kind of funny. It's like, they're not really human, so they don't have feelings. Like it could feel that way to them. It's like you can make fun of an Asian person, an old Asian person. They will have no idea what you're saying. They won't even pick up on the fact that you are putting them down. Because I saw this actually on an Instagram post of Asians for Mental Health, like this page on Instagram that talks about this, and the therapist, it's a Instagram page called Asians for Mental Health, and you can look it up. And she says that like it's the reason why that a lot of Asians struggle with being like outspoken about these kind of issues, like feeling like they are kind of just generalized and they are kind of just stereotyped, right? As this like Terrence and Phillip thing, right? The reason why we do have those issues is because, well, it's from a generation, it's passed on from a generation to a generation. A lot of Asian American kids have parents that don't speak English that well, that don't understand American lingo, that they don't even understand idioms, they don't understand sarcasm, puns, the subtleties of translation of communication in American culture. You say the last straw that broke the camel's back, the Chinese person would be like, why are we talking about straws and camels? Because it's just out of nowhere. But we know as American people, as people that speak English, we know that's an idiom. But like, it reminds me of a scene in Pink Panther where the detective, he's French, and he's talking to somebody. He's like, you are so annoying. And then the person's like, like a person, okay, so a person uses an idiom on the French detective, right? And the detective is like, why would you call me that? You, sir, are the idiom. Because oh man, I screwed up that joke. Fuck. All right. The person's like, okay, the person is like saying like, oh yeah, you're this and that, and he's using an idiom on the French detective, and the French detective's like, why would you say that? And he's like, and the other guy's like, oh, that's just an idiom. And he's like, and the French guy's offended. He's like, no, sir, you are the idiom. And so the joke is like he's misinterpreting idiom as idiot because he doesn't speak English. He's French, and his English isn't that good. So there's a misinterpretation. And so you get an Asian person who's like first generation, who just immigrated to the United States, and the lack of power is so deep, right? Okay, think of it this way. You're an Asian person, maybe a small, frail, older Asian man moving to the United States for the first time. You don't speak the language. You don't know the culture. You dress weird. The food is different. Everything about you is just so foreign, right? And then you get a bunch of big white and black men surrounding you, that are aware of American culture, that are aware of American communication, and they just see you as like a helpless old, like, like just this like this caricature is what they see. And if you look at history, like you look at those like posters of of propaganda posters of Asians working at laundromats, like, with slanty eye, and then they have the long goatee. The inherent hierarchical nature of America is not going to be merciful for the Asian person that just immigrated to the United States. It's not going to happen. You get that? So, and the therapist that runs that page, the Asians for, I wish I knew her name. Sorry, but like if you ever watch this, you know who you are, and I hope anybody who's interested will look into this. But I'll explain to you that this lady in the therapy thing says that, imagine, right, this person, he doesn't understand English. He's like, I'm moving to America, the land of opportunity. I'm looking for a better life. They don't speak the language, and then you got these people making fun of you and laughing at you, and you don't know what they're saying, and you're like, well, I'm here, and I'm just trying to make some money and trying to make a better life for myself and my family. And they learn to just duck, to avoid, to evade, and just ignore, and just try to just kind of, oh, no problem, like just leave me alone. And that behavior is then passed on to their children. That this is how their parents, your parents, right? Your parents are the people that you watch and to learn your behavior. And by the way, this is nothing to, if my parents are watching, this has nothing to do with my parents. Like, I was raised in a different environment, so it's different. But I'm speaking about Asians in general, like in America, that like these people, your parents, their parents pass that on, that behavior, and they think that this is how they're supposed to deal. Because you like, who else are you going to look up to how to behave in this, in this life, right? You look to your parents, and if your parents don't speak English and they deal with life that way, where they just duck these comments or these, racial attacks or anything like that, then that's what they learn too. And then Asian Americans feel like, oh, there's something wrong with me, that this is my fault, that I'm not courageous enough to speak up, that I don't know how to speak up, that this is all my fault, that there's something wrong with me, and I do deserve this. When you don't. You like, this is just something that a lot of Asian peoples just have accepted as what life is. And you don't. Right? You acknowledge that you've been put in a place where you've got the short end of the stick, right? That's something that we all have to accept as Asians in America, that we get the short end of the stick. It's the price we pay to be here. And it's an unwilling price that we pay, right? It's not what we think we should have anticipated. We felt like, I would think that in an ideal world, that we were in this country because we wanted to believe in a better future. We wanted to believe we're in a place where everyone is accepted as long as you work hard and as long as you contribute, as long as you're a good citizen, right? You pay your taxes, you contribute, that, like, you should be treated well. But that doesn't happen. It's not the reality. It's like, it's on paper, things sound nice, right? But the reality that you experience is completely different. And I have felt that, like, right? Like, you don't feel like what's on paper is actually what's the reality. That's not the reality. A lot of people know this. And this all goes back to what I said, like, that in America is inherently hierarchical. I mean, human nature is inherently hierarchical. And in America, of course, it's going to be hierarchical, especially if it's capital, like, with the values that we have, right? Like, the values that we have is like who has the biggest house, who has the best car, all these things, who has the most money, who has the most followers on social media. It's all these things. It's all about status. And so what we experience is, okay, like, yeah, we're not treated as better, right? We're treated as less because we are a minority. Like, Asians are a minority in America, and we have the short end of the stick. We are in a weaker position. We are in a lower standing, okay? Don't get mad at me. This is just what it is. Like, I can see it, okay? And so it makes you an easier target. Like, Asian people know this, right? It makes you an easier target. And it's just the way it is. Like, you can be the toughest, meanest motherfucker Asian person ever, but you're still going to be like a target. Because it just seems like, yeah, like you're in a weaker position. You don't have as much support. You're surrounded all the time, especially if you're in a living place where there aren't a lot of Asians. Like, I live in Portland, and where do I go for support? Like, social support in that sense. There's not a lot to lean on. So, I presented you the problem, right? This is what it is. It's a reality of being Asian in America, especially post-pandemic, right? It's gotten a lot worse. And there's a part of me that says there's nothing that can be done about this. Like, this reality that I'm stating here, there's nothing that we can actually do to change it. That this is just the way it is. And we have to accept it and just like put our heads down, accept that we're in a low position, and just keep going. And just be the model minority. Don't rock the boat. Don't say anything. But I personally will say that after thinking about it, I would say no. That you shouldn't just accept it. That you shouldn't just be okay with what is the current reality. That, the way things are set up for us, you shouldn't just accept it. And this actually applies to, I wish I stated this earlier, but everything that I'm saying applies to any human being. It doesn't matter what color of your skin is, or what race you are, or what nationality. It doesn't matter. This goes beyond all borders, all these labels, right? Because the reason why it's important that we don't just take it is because I believe that I personally, I don't know about everybody else, but I personally, as an Asian person in America, am put in a position where I have outlets. I have places where I can speak. I have this voice. And I have willing listeners. Something unique about the United States that I will say is that there are a lot of willing listeners in this country, specifically, I've experienced. Okay? There are willing listeners. And this is why it's important to speak up. It's important why you should voice your opinion, because here you can voice your opinion. Here you can say that there's something wrong, that things need to be changed. Here's how I feel. Because I think that for the sake of the people that became before us, that we should speak up on their behalf. That when we're called certain things, that when we're looked at a certain way, or when we're, treated a certain way, that it hurts. That there's pain, okay? That it's not funny. It's not a joke, right? You have to say those things and you have to stand up for yourself, because once you put that out there, once you say that what you said was not cool, that I did not appreciate that there is something, I'm not saying that you shouldn't say it, but this is how I feel. I didn't like that. It didn't feel good that you said that. When you put that out there, the person, it's like, if the person continues to do that, it's not as comfortable to continue. Whereas if you don't have the voice, if you don't say anything, like the people like our predecessors, right? Like the, people of first generation immigrants, Asians, they weren't able to say anything. And so for people to consistently persist, so much so that even Hollywood accepted it. Like Hollywood is okay with bashing Asian people and just making a caricature out of them, right? It was okay because nobody ever said anything about it. It was brushed under the rug, and honestly, most people will not care. People don't care, okay? Most people won't care about it. So my suggestion and my call to action for like people that look like me, right, is to just talk. Don't be afraid to talk. You don't have to be angry. You just have to talk. You just have to open your mouth and say, "This is how I feel. That wasn't cool, dude," or that was kind of shitty. Like, why would you say that? And I honestly am not in the business of telling what people can and can't say, right? I'm in the business of communication. I just want to say, like, this is how I feel. Like, this is what I think, right? And the more that people get that, the more that people see that we are human, we're not subhuman, that we have a voice, that we have thoughts and feelings, the less we're going to see of relentless mistreatment. And this is my view of how we can solve this issue. And the other thing is, learn some self-defense, okay? There's a big reason why people don't mess with martial artists and people that are, in the UFC, because they know that they can beat the shit out of them if they wanted to. You're not going to say something mean to Francis Ngannou. He's going to beat the living shit out of you. Like, he could if you wanted to. So the likelihood of me going up to Francis Ngannou and being like, "You suck," or something like that, like, that's not going to happen. There is something there. There's something there about being physically imposing, right? To be physically strong, to know how to defend yourself. It gives you a tremendous amount of confidence. And, like, I've been practicing BJJ. I practiced with my friend, and it just gives me just so much more sense of calm, because I know that if it were, if somebody were to mistreat me and to bully me, that there is something that I can do, and there is something that I know to do, right? Just learning self-defense in general, and this is different for all states and where you live and all that. So just kind of figure that out. Just kind of do your own research on that. But I would say, just look into BJJ. It's not violent. It's not like you're not wrestling. It's not like you're punching people. You don't get hurt. You don't get your head pounded in. It's really just maneuvering your body in a way that for leverage. It's not violent. It can look violent, but it's really just, you're just rolling around with somebody else. It's really all about control. But I would just say, look into it. Like, you'll see some of the best Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioners or Brazilian jiu-jitsu players who are kind of nerdy. Like, they're like, I eat pizza every night, and I love pasta, and I eat a pan of açaí. This is Musumechi, this Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy. He's like kind of geeky a little bit, and he's kind of like, haha, like very smiley. but he is an assassin. He would any guy on the street he would probably like put to sleep. Okay, just because he knows how to maneuver his body in a way that puts him in an advantage, where strength and power is not in the question. It's really more about leverage. Like a guy who is like 150 pounds, who knows Brazilian jiu-jitsu, can be able to hold his own in a physical confrontation with somebody who is like 220 pounds, because he knows jiu-jitsu, because he knows how to use his body like it's a rope, essentially. It's like kind of like a snake. Like you would think a snake, like you feel like, oh, you're bigger than a snake, but a snake can wrap around you and choke you, right? Because they know how to maneuver themselves. It's really like that. Then again, I'm not like a jiu-jitsu expert yet, so I can't explain that to you, but just look into it. But if you don't want to do that, that's fine. You know, you don't have to do martial arts. I feel like for me though, it's just been so life-changing. Like just even learning a little bit, just dipping my toes in it, it's just been changing completely the way I see life, and like how like I feel so much less vulnerable, you know, just being out in public, because understanding like what I am and am not capable of takes away a lot of fear in just existing. Because there's just a primal part of us, man, that like when we know that we can, you know, we can survive. We're survivors. We know how to survive, where, you know, you're able to be able to stand up for yourself and be able to say what you really truly believe. And I feel like that is the solution for a lot of problems today. Yeah, man, I said a lot today, but I feel like I got a lot of what I really want to talk about today. Like, I feel good. I feel like, wow, like I just, some things that I've really wanted to say that are just really just streaming out of me. But yeah, I'm really interested in what y'all have to say about all these things. Like, I feel like, I really do want to reach out more to Asian audiences and just being able to connect with other Asian people to just talk about this, because I think it's a very unique issue to us. And but I want to remind everybody that I'm not complaining, that this isn't a complaint. This is just talk. This is communication. And I feel like when we get to communicate, we understand each other so much better, and ultimately it just makes the world a little bit better than it was yesterday. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this was of help to you. If you have any questions, just ask me, just comment. And also I have a Discord. Dude, nobody's joined it yet. It's sad. Like, the only person in my Discord chat is my girlfriend. So if you want to chat with me, go ahead and join the Discord. I'll read it. I'll respond to you. Like, if you want to be part of the Cliffasaurus gang, Cliffasaurs, just join the Discord and we'll rock and roll. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video, brah. That was cringy. See ya.